Well, now we're no longer in the scientific field, because if we were truly in the scientific field, these messenger RNAs would never be used, neither in human medicine nor in veterinary medicine, because we don't have control. So this is, it's downright madness. I think we can't even talk about sorcerers' apprentices, because in my opinion, I think that obviously those who use these, who actually impose this type of vaccine, well, they know what they're doing, because we see there are a lot of harmful effects. So the fact that they persist in using them, especially selecting the self-amplifying ones, which are the worst of all, means there's a strategy behind it other than the purely health aspect.
Hello, I want this video to be shared in Anglo-Saxon countries. We need to make Professor Jean-Marc Sabatier known because he is a great researcher director of research at CNRS who has studied COVID extensively and the vaccinations associated with COVID, namely the messenger RNA technology. He denounces this technology as harmful to human health, and today he also denounces it as it's being injected into animals. And we will, by eating the meat of these animals, we humans will be infected by this messenger RNA. So he's raising the alarm, and given the context, he's isolated because he's challenging Big Pharma and this whole enterprise we're discovering today through revelations with Epstein. So there really is an organized conspiracy to destroy people's health, even kill them using methodologies that are effectively weapons used like biological weapons. So make this professor known, make Jean-Marc Sabatier known. He wrote a book in France, Nothing Escapes Messenger RNA Anymore. So I suggest you make him known, check his biography in the description, and you'll see that we have someone very serious scientifically who can help us in our fight against this deadly vaccination, against these methodologies that we see are harmful to humanity. Good luck, good. Have a great day, everyone, and see you soon.
This messenger RNA vaccination doesn't do the job, whether for humans or indeed for animals. It doesn't do the job at all because we don't control what's happening. We don't control anything, as I have often said. We talk about extraordinary scientific progress with messenger RNA vaccination. In fact, it's completely false, It's anti-science to say that, because when you look at the scientific data, it's the complete opposite, which means, in fact, we control nothing. We don't control what the cell will do, meaning the amount of molecules it will produce, like antigenic proteins, for example. The spike for an anti-COVID vaccine, it would be the H5 hemagglutinins for the CBA vaccine for ducks, for instance. So we don't control the actual amount produced. It will depend on the person. Some people will produce a lot more molecules than others. Then we don't control the fate of these molecules, meaning the messenger RNA itself and the antigenic protein produced. Well, we don't actually control their fate. We won't control its biodistribution, meaning where it will go in the body. We won't control its degradation either, its catabolism. So that is already a huge problem. And then in these messenger RNA vaccines, they introduced a nucleotide derivative called methyl-1 pseudouridine. And we know that this methyl-1 pseudouridine leads to the production of unknown proteins because it's a nucleotide derivative not well recognized by our cellular translation system or the cellular translation system of animals, other mammals, etc. And And so this leads to errors in amino acid incorporation because there are reading errors, specifically nucleotide triplets that will code for an amino acid. And this has been formally demonstrated for a long time, It was demonstrated well before the COVID pandemic, well before 2019. And then it was confirmed even on December 6, 2023, where they showed there were a multitude of products, other unknown proteins. We talk about off-target proteins, phantom proteins, aberrant proteins that are produced and will inevitably be harmful because they will also stimulate the immune system. The immune system won't differentiate between the antigenic protein. It needs to mobilize against and other produced proteins. So it will mobilize against a multitude of proteins, and in case of cross-immunoreactivity, that is cross-recognition by the elements of the immune system, it will lead to pathologies, autoimmune diseases.
Mitch,
Des troubles divers et variés.
we've infested.
Well, let's say that technically there's a lot that can be done with graphene. In particular, for example, we can activate messenger RNA vaccines with graphene quantum dots. We could potentially activate them remotely by a magnetic field, by ultrasounds, by photonic energy, light energy. So it's serious because, well, depending on what we want to do with it.
It's serious and it's real. People listening to us really need to understand that, unfortunately, this is possible.
Yes. There's a lot of literature precisely on graphene and even on the Internet of Bio-Nano things, But often it's hidden. Often it's accessible through the dark web. There are a lot of articles that are.
So this is not the talk of someone delusional. It's scientific talk that can be proven by science. No, but people listening to us need to understand clearly. We're not in a fantasy land. It's real.
Oh, yes, we have. This isn't science fiction, I was surprised. I was the first to be surprised when I saw that there were so many articles on the Internet of Bio-Nano things, It's really very, very advanced, much more advanced than we think. There you go.
Yeah.
And then graphene. Well, it can also be dangerous, for example, graphene oxide. If you have frequencies, like very high frequencies between 57 and 64 gigahertz, you have a frequency where there's a rotational change in oxygen causing the oxygen to rush onto graphene oxide. And so it can be dangerous for an organism. Because dioxygen, which is essential to feed our cells, tissues, and organs, well, it can be trapped on graphene oxide. And so we can end up in hypoxia, which means a deficiency of oxygen.
Of oxygen, yeah.
Which can be fatal,
Yeah.